I honestly think that people forget each other faster than they ever have. You can have the greatest connection with someone, have the greatest time with someone that you've never met before, but you have good chemistry and everything goes well. And then if you don't organize to see that person again within a week or 2 weeks max, the likelihood that you'll ever see that person again drops staggeringly. And this lines up with, you know how businesses, they have to reach back out to the people who reach out to them quickly in order to actually make the sale. I think I heard some crazy statistic about people who, businesses that respond back to inquiries from their customers are some crazy number, twice as more likely or 3 times more likely, something crazy like that, to make the sale if they respond back within 15 minutes. And I think that just goes to show how different it is in terms of the amount of media everyone's being fed. Like, their attention spans are so much more divided than ever. All of our attention spans are so much more divided than ever. And when our attention spans are more divided, there's less of it to go around. There's less of it for each one of us. So if you meet someone, you have a great time, it doesn't really matter as much as it used to, because we used to just know less people. We used to be less connected, less globalized, and so if we met someone cool, it was a bigger deal. Like, yeah, you'd want to keep in touch with that person. Even 1 month, 2 months down the line, you'd look back and say, hey, hold on a second, that one person who I met, they're reaching out to me. Yeah, I want to catch up with them. Amazing. But these days, it's like, in 1 or 2 months, most people are just on to the next thing. It doesn't even have to be another person. It could be some YouTube video. It could be some Instagram influencer. It could be... There's so many substitutes for the feelings and sensations that you get from hanging out with someone that you like, that it doesn't hurt as much when we're away from people that we care about for a long time as much as it used to. Because before, if there wasn't TV shows, if there wasn't music on demand, if there wasn't YouTube videos, if there wasn't social media to scroll through, if there wasn't any of this stuff, then, and you had been going a long time without seeing someone you care about, someone you like, someone you laugh with, someone you have good times with, then that would hurt a lot. That would hurt a ton. None of us would want to go 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month without any of that. If there was no social media, if there was no music, if there was none of that. But because there is that stuff, include food there as well. Fast food, high dopamine foods. If any of that stuff, because a lot of that stuff exists, well, all of that stuff exists now, yeah, the pain of being away from people we care about isn't as high. People who we enjoy ourselves with, it doesn't really matter because we have other stuff to enjoy ourselves. So it just makes me think a lot about how every person is just more forgettable now. It's a consequence of that. We're all just easier to forget when we meet people. It's just something that we have to accept. I think back to the past where people used to live in villages of less than 100 people, and in that scenario, you must, everyone plays a role. It's kind of like how back in school, we would know all the names of everybody in our school year. Like, it would be like a small village. Like, we all know each other's names. Even if we don't talk to that person, we know of them. We know roughly who they're friends with. We know roughly who hangs out with who. It's one of those where it's like an actual community sort of vibe. But I think the way today has gone is that it's a lot more centered around individuals. Everyone's like supposed to keep to themselves. Everyone's supposed to avoid bothering each other, avoid making anyone uncomfortable just by, talking to them when they might have their headphones in, as if that's the worst thing that could happen to a person. It makes such a big difference. There's been huge consequences of that. And I haven't seen people really talk about the consequence of everyone is just more easily forgettable. Even in these examples, if you hear a really good song back in the day, you would be playing that for like weeks or even months. Like, all of your friends would know about it. There'd be this one song, these couple songs that you'll know, that you'll play. You hear them everywhere you go out, at the supermarket or at your friends' parties, at people's houses. But these days, you hear a good song, you've forgotten about it within 2 days. You're on to the next great song that you found. Same with, social media personalities. Like, back in the day, there'd be these few that everybody knows. And if they had like over 1 million subscribers or something like that, everyone would know who they are, roughly. But these days, there's so many different pockets of the internet, there's so many different corners of the internet that someone could have 10 million subscribers and you just won't have ever heard of them. You'll go on the internet, you'll go and look at the top 10, top 20, top 50, 100 most subscribed YouTube channels, you'll be like, who are 98% who are 98 of these people? I've never heard of them. And it just goes to show how much more media exists, how much more, even the population has increased, but I don't think that's as well, it just wouldn't have as much of an effect. It definitely has an effect, but it wouldn't have had as much of an effect as it does with the fact that there's just so much more media for all of us to consume. So yeah, I don't think there's definitely no going back to the way things were, but I think we can try not to see it as such a negative thing, because at the end of the day, we do now have high-speed communication. Like, we can keep in contact with people that we wouldn't have used to be able to back in the day. I remember I'd make friends at like the park or at some kind of group that I was at as a child, and I'd know in the back of my head that I'm never going to see this person again. I'm never going to see them again, because having phones wasn't common back then, especially if you were a child. And so that is a privilege that we have now. If we meet cool people, we do get to keep in touch with them. But that's been the way that we pay for that. The way I see it is that the way that we pay for that privilege is by having to make the effort a bigger effort than we used to, because everyone's got a lot more just options for ways to spend their attention, ways to spend their time. And so you can't be as unintentional with it as we used to be able to get away with. We have to actually go out of our way to form connections, make sure we keep those connections going, and keep ourselves healthy at the end of the day, because we all need this connection. Technology and everything can be a substitute for human connection for a little bit, but it very quickly becomes unhealthy if we go for it for too long. So I think it's an interesting balance, and it's just a way that the world has changed. I don't think it's necessarily good or bad, although you could argue that some things are negative, some things are positive, but in general, I'd rather see it as just a change that we have to learn how to adapt to, rather than something to be really upset about. Even if there are some things that I definitely miss.